Hey, welcome back to No Limit Garage. Today, we're going to cut up a chassis, weld it back together. Let's get to it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back. So, as you heard, we're going to cut this chassis in half. Got everything out of the way. Drive shaft, fuel lines, brake lines, all that good stuff's out of the way. We got 20.5 inches to cut out right here. So all this is going to be gone. But before we do that, real quick, little update. Nothing long. Don't worry. Stick with me. The Chevelle. As many of you know, or everybody knows if you watched, the external pump that we were using on the Chevelle, I don't even know where I put it now. Oh, here it is. This external pump right here. Junk. Well, shouldn't say junk. It was in a place where it got really hot. And when it gets really hot, it does not work very well. So we got rid of that altogether. And we went to a G-body tank. This is for a Grand National, but you know, whatever, Monte Carlo, Malibu, whatever G-body stuff. It's a G-body tank. With that, it has a bigger opening, so we used the Grand National sending unit and put a Hellcat pump in it. So we got Buick, Dodge, Toyota, Chevy. We got it all happening. And it runs so much better. So we're good there. That is great. Only downside is I'm an idiot, and when I put the sending unit in, I did not realize that they did not ship it with a float. So it's got to come back out so I can put a float in it so my fuel gauge works again. Not a big deal. We'll do that eventually. Not right now. I'm not worried about it. We got bigger things happening. Anyway, back to the Apache. Like I said, we're going to take 20.5 inches here to here. Bad thing about this, it's going to be straight cut. I don't have room for any Z-cuts or anything like that because there's nothing good back here. And we got the torsion bar cross member up here. So it would just be kind of hacky. Wouldn't work well. So we're going to straight cut it. It's only one way it's going to get done. And that's to do it. So let's do it. Alright guys, so both of them are cut out. Right side, left side. Like I said, we're going to clean those up a little bit with flap wheel once we get this cut. That is next, so we're going to mark this maybe with some tape or something to make it easier. And then get some jack stands, support both sides, and cut it up. And just like that, we have a frame that is 20.5 inches shorter than it was. So we're going to take our pieces that we made and vice grip them or something into the fronts. And we're going to scoop the back up, set it down on top of them. And then before we do that, we'll take the flap wheel and bevel this a little bit, and then we'll clean it up on each side. That way it welds nice. And on the back side, kind of where those are going to go. And we will probably have to bolt those on. I might weld them on the front side because I can get to that, but I'm not going to be able to get past that plate to weld the back side on, which is fine. The bolting it on will give it a little bit of flex anyway, so if we weld it to the front side and bolt it to the back, it'll be able to move if it needs to, which both these cross members right here next to each other, because those are obviously going to come up, it's not going to have a chance to move much at that spot anyway, so not too worried about it. But that's the plan. So got it cut apart. Now we just need to clean it up, slide it together, start welding. A couple days later, we're about ready to weld. So had to move all this stuff right after I cut the frame in half. Wife's Escalade had a fuel leak, so I had to move all this stuff over here to get the Escalade on the lift. Got it fixed. Actually, this was the line that was leaking here. It had rubbed a hole in it, and cut a piece of hose, slipped it over, hose clamped it 3 times. That held for about 5 days till the part came in. So if you need a fix for something like that, that works in a pinch. Anyhow, this is back in here. We're going to weld it up. I'm going to clean these plates up that we made. Admittedly, they are a little bit thicker than we need, but it's what we got, and that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to clean these up real good and then get them into place. Maybe mark a couple holes, maybe pull them back out and drill everything. Not too sure yet how I'm going to do that. Just kind of depends on where everything sits and how the weld goes, I guess. But either way, I'm going to clean these up so we can use those, get them kind of set into place, weld these all up, and once we weld them all up, also got the header set in here just because I was curious. That's going to be good. But once we weld them all up, we will push it out a little bit so that we can pull that forward, get it on the lift, and then we'll roll it back in here, set it down, because I want to see, I think I'm going to have to cut the front frame horns off about here to get the core support and everything to sit low enough that it is happy. So we're going to put the body back on it before we do that, just to get a nice location of where we want to do that and decide if we need to cut these off or not as well. We may end up cutting those off depending on where they sit. Not sure yet, but get these welded up and get the frame cleaned up, and then I'm also going to patch this rust spot. I got some thinner stuff over there that I will probably cut out, and once this is done, I'll make the bend in it and overlay it here, and that'll be good. This truck's not going to see enough that that's going to be super crucial. It'll be fine. It's not a huge deal, but we will plate it that way it's taken care of. I mean, it's pretty solid everywhere else, so no biggie. We will get that plated, and this thing will be coming right along. I might take a little bit out of this so that they can close up the gap up top, but it looks pretty dang good. And I did measure from the front side of this tube to this front weld on both sides, and it is exactly the same. So we did good with our cut. Yeah, let's jump to some more time lapse, get this thing welded up, and come right back to you. And just like that, it is one piece again. Not too bad. Turned out pretty good. I just used a carpenter square of all things, wherever it went. I don't know where it is now. There it is. I just used carpenter square. Made sure it was flat top side and welded her up. Used a strap, as you saw, across to kind of get it where I needed it. There wasn't much that needed to happen. I had to jack the front up just a little bit to get it level. Burned it together. Pretty easy. Got to push back. Got the cab in there. So basically, what we're going to do, I think the best plan is, we're just going to lower this thing down until it touches something. And then I'm going to mark that, cut it out, lower it down again. And we're just going to do that over and over until it sits where we want it. And then we'll build mounts. So the first thing that I'm sure it's going to touch, these shock tabs and that shock bolt that sticks up through there, I believe it hits right about there. So the plan was to kind of take this piece that's kind of rolled in there and just cut along the bottom of it and then down the front. Obviously miss that mount, but just come down and straight down, or whatever we need to do. We can cut right below it and up and get rid of that little hump right there. But I'm gonna re-lower it to make sure I know for sure that that's what I want to do. Probably gonna do it on both sides here, but that should clear us there. And then the second big thing that I'm sure of is this piece right here hits this, which sticks up quite a ways. I don't know if we're going to get away with just cutting this mount off, or if we're going to have to cut the whole frame horn off. And then basically this mount right here lands pretty close to this pad, so whether we need to, you know, build up a little something to mount that, or if we just need to drill a hole and use that for a mount, I'm not sure yet, but we will find that out. So we're gonna lower it down right now. I got the locks off, and we're just gonna see what it hits. Alright, so we hit on that shock first, and we are really close to this. And actually, it looks pretty centered, but it looks like the frame could go this way just a touch. We'll have to measure and make sure. Well, this side of the frame, or this side of the cab, and the lift must be a little higher or something, or the frame's not perfect level with the floor, but we're not touching here yet, so something's wonky there. Looks like that side's lower, but either way, it's kind of where we're at. We know what we're gonna have to cut regardless, so we'll get rid of that. And then maybe we'll just take these off real quick. That way we know we're not gonna hit those, and try it again. Well, for eyeballing, they're pretty equal. So I'm gonna head and cut at that line, down before that there. Same on this side. Before that little washer deal. We'll take the flap wheel and we'll kind of clean up these rough edges, but not too bad. That'll get that out of the way. And you saw we took the little tops off of these nubbins. So we'll go ahead and lift this back up and set it back down on the chassis and see if it's any closer. I also moved it over just a touch because this tire was touching the lift arm and this one wasn't, and as you saw, these bolts were not centered with the things we cut off. So let's see what we got now. We ought to be a little closer. I'm thinking those little deals up there are gonna have to be cut off anyway. But if we can get it down to where I can figure out how to make cab mounts, I'm not too worried about the front core support. That'll be easy. But the cab mounts, I want to get the cab as low as possible on the frame. But the bad thing about getting the cab as low as possible is the bed. I don't want to have to cut out the floor, but I also want it to look right. Like, I don't want to see a lot of frame below the cab. It just wouldn't look good. So we touch the tire there. We're getting close there, and that's just how much gap we got back there. I really want to get the cab down as much as possible. But up here, I mean, we might have to, looks like we still got to go over that way just a touch, but we might have to cut some of this out or something. I'm not sure yet. Like I said, these are going to be gone because we don't need those at all. We can cut those off completely. But we're getting close. So we're going to have to figure out how much of this we can cut out. I don't really want to cut out much of it if we don't have to, but we got to get it down a little bit. We're not going to be able to go down but another 1.5 inches if we keep that. So don't know if that's going to be enough. Maybe. I do want to come down a little more if possible, so we will probably chew on this for a night or so, see what we're going to do. I'll send some pictures and see what the customer thinks and what route he wants to go, and then maybe worst case we'll cut some of this front stuff out and lower it down a little more and see what we got. But not too bad so far. Looking good. Thought about it overnight. Came up with a plan. Much better already. So we got that gap down quite a ways. It's looking really good. Even back here, looking nice. Took up that gap between the transfer case and the cab really well. So doing pretty good. I think it's kind of an optical illusion, but I think the front needs to come up just a touch to get it to level out. Really kind of need the bed in here before we finalize this. We might kind of put it all together and tack it. When we get mounts made, we might tack everything in place, set this on it, and then get the bed in here and make sure everything will be okay before we final weld everything. But what I did was, let's see if I can find them here. These are the pieces that I was talking about cutting. Basically bolt to this and then the core support. This was this side, I think. But either way, I was going to cut these to try to fit them in there, and then I realized that they bolt everywhere and you can just take them out. Basically all they do is support this from, you know, impact, and that's pretty sturdy, so we don't really need those. This bolt here bolts this to this piece, so I did put those 2 bolts back in to keep this from flexing separate of that, but otherwise didn't really need these, so took those out. That got it dropped that far. As you can see, there was where these bolted to, these 2 holes at the end here, that stuck down and was hitting the frame, so I did cut where these bolted off, and that allowed us to get it to sit down this far. I'm gonna go ahead and lift it up and show you kind of where we're gonna mount the core support, I think. But I am going to cut this piece off. We're gonna leave the frame horn and the tow hook, because I'm kind of thinking if I take these off, I will be able to mount the bumper and keep the tow hooks. If I can't, you know, whatever, we'll take them out. But I'm thinking I can do that and tuck the bumper like it was and still keep the tow hook just poking out the bottom. That way, this thing ever gets stuck or what have you, hey, factory tow hook, got it. So I'm gonna cut these off, but before I do that, let's lift it up and I'll show you core support. So right here is the core support mount, and it lands right about where that brake line comes across. So I'm thinking this might get replaced anyway. For now, what I'm probably gonna do is take it out of here and just kind of, you know, bend it over to this side to let it come up here. It'd work out pretty well. So pretty neat. This little deflector here that's down tucks right in beneath here. That's pretty cool. And then all of this will be right out of the way. It's just about perfect. So far so good. I'm gonna cut these off and then we'll drop this back down, kind of test that bumper a little bit, see if that's gonna work, and then maybe check and level this if we need to. If we need to, we'll do it. That way we know on the back kind of where we're at, and then it's just going to be designing and making body mounts to tack onto this thing to see if we're going to be happy with it. So we're getting there. This is kind of the struggle part, but we're doing it. So I'll cut these off. We'll drop it back down and look. Alright, we got those cut off. So let's drop this thing down, see about where we're at, and then see if we can get this bumper to be pretty good. We're probably gonna have to take the mounts off the bumper to get it to be even close, because those big side pieces are gonna be in the way. Hopefully they come off, because pretty rusty, but we'll see. Got all the pieces off. I only had to cut 2 bolts. The rest of them came right out, so that's good. But we got it kind of mocked up here. Now, I've seen guys do this, and I kind of want some opinions. This is technically upside down. Now, what that does is the bottom of the bumper has more curve, and it goes deeper. You know, a typical bumper comes up and then it has just a little length at the top and it curves down. So the big curve at the top, if you flip it over, kind of takes up some gap. I think it looks pretty good. Doesn't look bad. I mean, obviously it would be leveled. This is just kind of sitting there. But if I flip it over the correct way to keep the tow hooks, which I don't really need to do, I can cut them off. if I wanted to keep them, I would have to notch the bottom of the bumper so it would sit in a little bit and cover this gap, because right now there's quite a bit of gap. So what I would probably do is I'll ask the customer what he wants. If he wants to keep the tow hooks, we might try to go this route. They don't really stick out that much when you're looking at it. I mean, when you're looking from out here, they're pretty apparent. I mean, you can obviously see them sticking out, but they don't really look that bad when you're looking from the side or the top. They're pretty well right there. They're just kind of down on their own, so they look bad when you step back. And of course, we could paint them black or what have you. But we'll kind of decide what he wants and go from there. Maybe we'll just cut the frame horns completely off. I don't know. But drop it down in the comments. What do you think? I mean, if it was yours, what would you do? Do you like the kind of, you know, upside down version where it kind of rolls in and kind of fills that up nice? And it looks pretty good on, like, you know, hot rod street trucks and stuff where they do it. I've seen it on those and it looks kind of neat. So we're just kind of thinking and brainstorming here, but it doesn't look too bad. But that did drop it a ton, and it looks a lot better. You can tell right here that the cab still needs to go left just a touch. You can tell right there those holes based on that tow hook. They're right at the edge, and which of course the bumper's not perfect either, but cab's got to go over just a touch, and we'll finish all that stuff obviously when we mount everything, because we're going to put our mounts on the frame and our mounts on the cab aren't going to move. So as long as we center them up on the frame, everything will be good. I'm talking, sorry. That's where we're at. So I think that's where we're going to end up this episode, because it's going to take some time to fab up the frame mounts, and that will be a pretty good episode in itself, I believe, because we're going to have to get this thing leveled up, squared up, centered up, mounts on and tacked, bed on, and figure out if we're going to have to take the bed floor out or if we're okay based on the cab height, and go from there. If we got to take the bed floor out, so be it. I am prioritizing fully getting this thing set down on the frame, because I do not want it to be, you know, a foot off the frame just to save the bed floor, and now it looks stupid. So we're getting there. It looks a lot better down this far, and starting to see the vision, and it's making me feel a lot better. So that's gonna do it for this episode. We're gonna kind of block this thing up, I think, because we got some other stuff to get in here for the time being. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thank you for watching. As always, stick around for this, because we're going to keep making headway on this thing for sure. We got to get rolling on this. Once we get the mounts done for everything, this is going to fly, because basically standalone and the trans swap, exhaust, shorter drive shaft. We're going to do some type of column to match up with the steering that's in there, and then brakes all around, seats. This thing will be pretty well nipped, so shouldn't really be that bad. Once we get this thing mounted, everything else will roll into place and it'll be good. So thank you guys for watching and for listening to me ramble. I appreciate it, as always. We will see you very, very soon. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff if you want. Follow us on social media. Stay tuned for the next one.